deceitful. What happens is they get the kids to believing in evolution with this definition, which is true, but then they switch them. They slip in the real meaning, like cosmic evolution, Big Bang, organic evolution, the other 5 that I mentioned, for which there is no evidence whatsoever. I come from Illinois, corn country. There's all sorts of corn up there, folks. And you can crossbreed your corn. They have to number them. There's so many different varieties of corn, they name them and number them. But you're never going to get a hamster or a tomato or a whale to grow on that corn stalk, okay? You're going to get corn. See, variations happen. You get a variety of dogs, a variety of cows. Variations happen, but they have limits. And somehow the evolutionist either doesn't see this or doesn't understand it or doesn't want to admit it. But yes, we have varieties, but there are limits. Farmers try to breed for bigger pigs, don't they? Do you think they'll ever get a pig as big as Texas? No, there's a limit in there someplace. And the limit is what Genesis said they would be, after their kind. Roaches become resistant to pesticides after a while. They do. But they never become resistant to a sledgehammer. There's a limit to the resistance. And I don't know how somebody can believe we all came from a rock over 4.6 billion years. Evolution doesn't happen. Variations happen, but they're the same kind of animal. You might get a big dog or a little dog, but that's not evolution. It's just a variety. And the gene pool already contained that information. Gene pool is much more limited of the new variety. That's not evolution. And genetic information is lost with all these changes. Nothing is gained. And people like Niles Eldredge will admit there is no evidence for this theory. We'll get into that next time.
Again, a 3-minute rebuttal. Dr. Pruitt?
Thanks so much. I want to start by saying that Darwin was not accepted at first, and in fact, Darwinian evolution is not accepted today in its totality. We fight with each other over the data and over theories. If you talk to 2 evolutionists, one will be a proponent of punctuated equilibrium and another will be a proponent of gradualism, and all of these things are things that I'm not going to deal with until my next data section. But we are talking about Genesis here because ultimately the text that creation science uses as its basic check to see whether things are right is Genesis. Now, all texts require interpretation. Let's consider the story of Joseph. Let's not consider the story of Joseph. Let's go to Jacob. When he's living with Laban and he's taking care of his flocks. Now, you can choose to interpret what Jacob did to get one kind of animals on one side and another kind of animals on the other, and ultimately he ended up with all the flocks because he got all the striped ones or the spotted ones. You can interpret what he did as microevolutionary knowledge, which is one way of looking at it, or you can interpret what he did as magic. And in fact, Genesis implies that what he was doing was magic. Because in fact, before we had a knowledge of genetics, all of the stuff that we did that worked like that was magic. In effect, scientists are great magicians. The point that I'm making is that the text of Genesis is the foundation of creation science, not the record. And I could contend and refute every single contention that's been made against the fossil record, against the material record that has been made by my colleagues. If we have enough time, we can take the time and do it. I can refute every single claim about Neanderthal, about Lucy. I don't care so much about Lucy's knees. I thought her hips were pretty impressive. All right, and in fact, half-truths is what you're hearing from the other side. Half-truths. We tell the part of it that fits our argument, we leave out the part that doesn't fit. And that is something that's not allowed in the rules of science. The rules of science say to us, you look at the world, and however the world comes to you, that's what you've got to contend with. And if nature comes back and says no, if you're a theistic evolutionist, then you're saying God is coming back and saying no, you haven't solved it yet. You're not supposed to have that perfect knowledge. I'll finish this by saying Kenneth Pike, who was a very devoted Christian and supporter, he was one of the founders of the Wycliffe Bible Translator Group, said that the perfect epistemology would be the epistemology of God, that knowledge of what happens in its detail, in perfection. I'm not perfect. I'm a human. I have to deal with science.
Here we go. Technology's working. I love science. Okay. Well, I still contend I don't believe in the theistic evolution. I don't believe in any form of evolution, especially that we came from a rock. There's absolutely no genetic material in a rock, and that presents kind of a problem for theistic evolution unless you're looking for a miracle. But I will go back to what's being taught in our textbooks as truth and fact, and that is horse evolution. You'll even see it at the zoos. Horse evolution is supposed to be the end-all, be-all to prove that horses evolved, yet that's not what they're teaching the kids in school. They're teaching the kids some crazy things. Like these horses are evolving, but the truth is they won't tell them that it starts out with the Eohippus with 18 pairs of ribs, then you keep going on to the next generation and they just can't make up how many ribs they're supposed to have. There's a lot of problems with this horse evolution. It was made up by Othniel C. Marsh in 1874 from fossils scattered across the world and not from the same location, which was Lucy's problem, scattered over almost 2 miles at different depths. Modern horses are found in layers with and lower than ancient horses. If you believe in the geologic column, that presents a problem for your theories. The ancient horse is not a horse, but is just like the hyrax still alive today. I've seen one in a zoo before. Ribs, toes, teeth, everything is totally different. South American fossils go from one-toed to three-toed, and they're never found in the order presented. Othniel just put them together like he thought they should go. And it's all being taught as fact and peddling to push evolution as true. And once you start to fall for this lie of evolution that has no evidence for it, scientific evidence, stuff that you can measure, taste, touch, weigh, and smell and all that, once you begin to fall for that, you're going to have a hard time with the Bible. They're pushing that dinosaurs evolved into birds. I just read an article on this in a magazine here about a month ago. They're bringing it back again, using the Archaeopteryx argument all over again. Yet they're not teaching the kids. It was proven to be a lie. And what good is half an arm and half a wing for millions of years? You just can't catch that dragonfly either way. The problems with Archaeopteryx was, well, the feather imprints were shown to be a fraud in 1990, and this hoax is still being used in public school textbooks, in the newspapers, on Discovery Channel. Because of the fake feathers, the slab halves of both halves of this fossil don't even line up anymore. 2 real birds have been found that predate Archaeopteryx. Again, if you believe in the geologic column, that presents quite a problem. They say the wishbone was, there was a hole chiseled out for the wishbone and it was put in backwards and upside down. Folks, there's a lot of problems with what they're presenting. They're not presenting the whole truth about these fossils. It's considered to be the little compy dinosaur that people saw in Jurassic Park, the sequel. And the feather imprints are only found in 2 of the 6 fossils, and these have been proven to be faked. Somebody slapped some cement on one of these halves and imprinted feathers in it, is what our side's claiming. There's not enough fossil records to answer when, where, and how Homo sapiens emerged. This is from an evolutionist. Apart from very modern examples, I'm sorry, I have to stop here. Thank you.
Again, I'm not a biologist, and again, I'm not a theologian. I think all I can rely on, right, and recommend to you all is that you take in these facts and half-truths. Some facts, the fossil record is incomplete. Some half-truths that, I don't know where to begin. I just hope that you're taking this in using your full critical reflective capacities, you know, that evolution through natural selection gave you. That is, I hope that you haven't lost sense of the discussion here before us today, right? Why should you believe this theory as opposed to an account based on Genesis? We're talking about your adopting or revising a belief. This evidence might be impressive if we knew how to evaluate it, but unless you know what vestigial organs are, and what